Interference filters are very energy efficient components. So you can, for instance, use them in systems where there's very low signals that it's important to preserve. You can also use them in systems where there's a lot of power which could normally destroy other kinds of filters. Steepness of the edges and the level of blocking and the level of transmission are important parameters of optical filters and dichroics. S-polarized light is in general more easily reflected than the p-polarized light. And due to this, there is normally a polarization splitting at the edge of dichroics. It is possible to reduce this angle dependence and the polarization splitting by doing a lot of optimization on the layer code, but it takes quite long to do so. And in the end, it will be somewhat on the cost of other important features of the coatings. So it's important that we understand well what should be the right compromise between reducing those angle dependence and the other properties of the filters. The plasma processes that we use to densify the optical coatings, they introduce a mechanical stress in the coating, and this tends to bend the substrate somewhat. It's not really a problem for optical filters because optical filters normally have nearly the same amount of coating material on both sides of the substrate. But for dichroics, it's different because the main function of a dichroic is on one side of the substrate. What we can do is we can add an stress compensating anti-reflection coating on the rear side, but it's of course more costly to do than a normal anti-reflection coating. So it's important to know how much bending you can accept in your system. The coating materials that we use, they are of course depending somewhat on the temperature, but it's not normally something you need to think a lot about. But in case you want to use the coating with some extreme temperatures, then it's important that we know, because then we can take care of it, that we do the design, that it fits well for the purpose. It's also very important that you tell us if the coating is going to be used with a very powerful laser, especially if it's a pulsed laser.